Thanks for tuning in to the Prosperity for America channel. Today we're going to talk about important things to think about when it comes to benefits. And benefits, really, there's a lot to think about it. In reality, benefits come to about 20 to 30, sometimes close to 40% of your compensation schedule. And today what we want to talk about is just what certain things mean, what things are good for you to know. And quite frankly, I want to make sure you know this right off. Talking about benefits during the job interviews is not really recommended to help you get the position. But once you know you're going to get an offer, all right, that's when you can start talking about benefits. It's a good idea for you to know what you need and what's important to you. For example, obviously pre-existing conditions in your family and the people that you love are an important thing to take into consideration. Now, when it comes to changing positions, a group plan, if you are taking a position and you have less than a 62-day without any benefits at all, you can usually have your pre-existing conditions waived. But I would encourage you to actually check with your insurance agent, check with your HR department, just so you know where you're at, okay? Reason for that is healthcare reform did, in fact, make it so that pre-existing conditions would be covered in the transfer from one new position to a new position from an old position, provided that you have prior coverage, etc. However, when you let that go for more than 2 months, then sometimes you have to kind of requalify it for everything, you know. So you want to definitely, if you have a pre-existing condition in your family, the one thing you want to do if you become unemployed is make sure you're on it and you're going to find a new job quickly that has benefits, or you at least replace them with temporary insurance, or get one with one of the benefit plans that are available through healthcare reform, so that you can make sure you have some existing coverage that you can count on that will make sure there isn't a point in time where you'll lose your ability to have your pre-existing conditions covered. Again, this is not legal advice. This is just simply something you should be aware of to look at. Now, as far as the different types of benefits out there, you know, there's medical coverage, all right? And something that's interesting to go through and to make sure you know is what some of the insurance lingos mean. Like, most plans have a deductible. And a deductible is just like you would have with your car insurance, but it could be $500 deductible, it could be $1,000. Most employers are being encouraged by healthcare reform to go to higher deductibles to save money. And some companies will provide a higher deductible plan, but they also may provide for you a contribution to your personal HSA, which is your health savings account, or an FSA, which is it's a different type of healthcare saving account. But the key is if you have an employer that you're considering that offers some help with your HSA, and they're saying that they have a higher deductible, they may be insuring with a higher deductible, but providing some coverage underneath that they're just giving you the money to work with for your health savings account. That's actually a good strategy for controlling costs, and it could be a very good strategy for you. And the other thing that's cool about that is, say you have years where you don't use all the money that the company provides for you. By the way, it would be a wise idea if they have an HSA for you to contribute to it as well. So, but if you don't use all the money up, whatever you don't use in an HSA is usable in the future for the following year, which means that if you happen to have a healthy few years, then you could get to a point where maybe that major illness that hits somebody in your family or yourself, where you know you're going to use up a $3,000 or $5,000 deductible. But if you have the money in your HSA, you could use it to cover that bigger hit, etc. So really take that into consideration, become knowledgeable about that. But also, as you're looking for a new position, you want to know what they're doing and how they're approaching those things. Most companies these days are offering what they call a cafeteria plan, where you can take a higher level of coverage and a lower or higher deductible, which in a sense is a a lower level of coverage with a higher deductible. So be aware of your situation, and then make sure that you are able to understand the difference between a deductible and a coinsurance. Now, coinsurance is, once the deductible is covered, they might not cover it 100%. They might cover it 80%. They might cover it 50%. They might have rules about whether or not you're in the same network or out of the network, and that'll change by every geographic area. So if you want to, again, have a deeper understanding as to what hospitals you could go to with the benefit plan you have, you want to know which hospitals are in network for your benefit plan, etc., as you go to look for a new position. And again, I just want to emphasize, you want to talk about these things when you know you're getting the offer. In other words, this is the time to look at how good the benefits are or whether they meet the situation is after you know you're going to get the offer, perhaps even waiting till you even have the offer, because that way they can't really not offer you the job based on your questions. Okay, so it's just a matter of knowing what things are. But again, you're going to have people in your family, your spouse wanting to know, well, is Johnny going to be covered for this, or is Susie going to be covered for that? And you want to make sure that you are in a position to know what's going to happen as best as you can. Now, as far as unemployment or and all those kinds of things, those are not really considered benefits. All right, that's something that's provided if you lose that position, etc. And each state has its own laws related to that. Workman's comp is a separate category. That's not a benefit. But what is a benefit is possible dental coverage, possible vision coverage, long-term disability, short-term disability. The difference between long and short-term disability is pretty self-explanatory in a way, but sometimes everything in insurance gets a little confusing. So when it comes to that kind of thing, short-term disability is usually the first 26 weeks, sometimes as low as 13 weeks that you may be ill. Long-term disability is usually not something that comes into play coverage-wise until you've been out of work for more than 6 months. It's more of a long-term disability, and that's also a different type of insurance. All right, so to make it very clear, short-term disability is, say you get ill and you're out of work, and so you're out of work for a week, you'll have no income, but at the day 7 they'll start paying whatever the plan covers, and that might go for 26 weeks or 40 weeks depending on whatever you purchased, and usually it'll go 26 weeks, and then from there, if you're still sick and out, then that goes where you would want to be switched over to a long-term disability plan, which some companies have, some companies don't. Just like some companies have short-term disability and some companies don't. And along those lines, it's important when you are considering the package. See, benefits are tax-free. And so a company that has a better benefit package, if somebody offers you, if they offer you a little bit less money, the benefits may make up for it, and it might be even a better deal. Same thing goes with vacation policy. Sometimes there are companies that they only really offer 1 week of vacation or 2 weeks of vacation a year, but then there are quite a few companies nowadays that once you're there for 5 years, you get 3 weeks. Once you're there for 10 years, you might get 3 weeks. It's a big deal to wait an extra 5 years for a 3rd week vacation. Usually after 20 years, a company will give 4 weeks vacation. Some even go further than that. It just depends. But nonetheless, be aware of where you are in the process of looking for a new position. Something that can happen is that if you've been in a position for more than 5 years, it's sometimes you can negotiate with your new employer the ability to get credit for your seniority from your prior employer. So if you've already got your third weekend at your current employer and you're going to a new company, rather than having to start over, all you have to do is have them give you credit for the 5 years you spent at your current employer. Now, if you're a person that changes jobs every year or two, they're not going to try to give you, there's no leverage for you to get that third week just because you haven't shown that you've ever gotten to the point where you're eligible for it in the first place. So really the reason companies give that extra third or fourth week is to get people to stay longer with the company. It's a nice thing. So just be aware though that, there are some things that there is some give and take on, and that's one of them. 401ks, all right? 401ks are a wonderful benefit as far as saving for your retirement. Some companies will give 1/2 of a point for every point that you put in. So if you put in 1%, they'll put in an additional 0.5%. That's really good because, first of all, you hope in an investment of your money that you might get 7 or 8% a year, but when the company contributes 50%, then that's 50% right off the top, and now you're compounding the 8% on 1.5 times what you would be putting in every year, and that really helps you get a nest egg for your retirement much faster. There are more companies nowadays that are doing what's called a safe harbor plan, which means that basically for the first 3 points, they'll match it at 100%. So if you put in 3, they'll put in 3. It's really foolish when you get a safe harbor plan situation to not take and put your 3% in to get the money, because basically, you're just throwing away 3% a year, but then that compounds by interest-wise. And don't forget, when you work for an employer, and nowadays a lot of people are changing positions more often, you might not necessarily stay at the same employer for 30 years. But if you had an employer that has a good 401k plan and offering a safe harbor plan of 3% on the first 3%, you'd want to always take advantage of that, because you could always move it to your next company's plan, or you could put it in your own IRA. There's some really good flexibility there on that. And so basically what I wanted to do here with the Prosperity for America channel is really talk about all the facets of looking for a new position. So there's videos we have on how to make a better or more effective resume. There's videos that we have on how to interview more effectively for a position. We've got videos on career strategies. And employee benefits is an area that sometimes gets very confusing, and when people are changing jobs, it's almost like they have to really burn the midnight oil to figure out what the heck they got to compare the offers. I got to share with you though, when it comes down to it, if a position that is offered to you is just plain flat out in and of itself a good career move, then don't worry as much about the benefits, because it's about getting the opportunity. And one of the things that I think that we forget about career strategy wise is the idea that going to a company where we'll get a chance to legitimately get promoted or grow into a position where technologically we're working on something that has the capabilities to paying us much better than where we may enter into the position at that particular firm or any other firm we may eventually work for. So if you have a company that's willing to either invest in you by training you and growing your skill set, or there's an opportunity getting promoted to get into a management position, that's something to really take into consideration. So as you're looking for a new position, don't hesitate to call us and ask questions. Even if we're not involved, we'd like to help. And also come look at the Prosperity for America channel. I highly recommend that you subscribe, because whether you're working with us to find a new position or not, we're still trying to provide a value, because that's the whole process and purpose of the Prosperity for America channel, is to help everyone in our great country have a more prosperous, successful career. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. I'm Greg Schmidt. Thanks. Looking for a technical professional or operations management position? Visit prosperity.jobs. For tips on how to get a better response to your resume online or how to interview more effectively to have a more prosperous career, visit the Prosperity4America channel on YouTube. Prosperity, it's what we all want.